Greetings, folks. This is Joseph A. Sobora, and wow! After over 30 years since its last sequel to the original Star Wars trilogy called Return of the Jedi, and 10 years ago since its last sequel to the prequel trilogy called Revenge of the Sith, we finally got the 7th installment we all been waiting for, called Star Wars The Force Awakens. This time, however, it's co-produced, co-written, and directed by J.J. Abrams. Yep, the person behind Alias and Lost had finally became the true Jedi Master to direct the following saga of the Star Wars series. Along with Kathleen Kennedy, who I worked with Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall, and Brian Burke. Yep. In the return, we have writers Lawrence Kasdan, who was the original writer of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, as well as writing all the Indiana Jones movies and had directed several films later in his career. Yep, and this time they have Michael Arndt as the co-writer. And already this movie has become the highest grossing worldwide opening of any film, going over $689 million. So, yep, this is one true biggest opening that we really expected for Star Wars, and I'm glad. Because this is also the first film that's being released by Walt Disney Motion Pictures instead of 20th Century Fox. Ever since Disney had owned the rights to Lucasfilm Limited, as they purchased it back in 2012 from George Lucas. So yes, I was really excited to see this movie as I waited this long, and and after seeing this movie on Monday on the big screen, I was really excited. In fact, this movie just looks as amazing as the rest of the Star Wars series. Although I'm going to be aware on this one, it's not as good as the original trilogy, but I think it's a good follow-up nevertheless. And yes, to my experience, it is a bit better than the prequels. But don't get your hopes up on this one, because yes, this movie does have its problems. But anyway, before I get to the review, I'm going to show you all 4 of the starships that I just picked up as a Christmas gift that I just can't believe I finally got. But here it is. I got the Millennium Falcon. Yeah. Yep. Han Solo's gorgeous ship. Yeah, which I know some people say is a piece of junk. My ass. Yeah, it's all sticked up. See if I can get this out. And there you go. Zhoo. Going into light speed. Zhoo. Also, I have some other ones, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Starfighter. Yeah, which is, I believe it's from the prequels. It has to be. It looks really awesome. I got the Ghost. Yeah, another cool ship. And finally, I got the Snowfighter. Yeah, the one that they used in the movie The Empire Strikes Back. So, all in all, let's see, I'm going to put them all together. Okay. There you go. All the Star Wars ships on all in my fingers. Wow, and they're flying together. Wow, look at that. Hey, this is actually a cool design to Carrie. Okay, let's just take it off so I won't hurt myself. So now we can finally get to the review of the 7th installment of the Star Wars series. It stars Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, who's been best known for being in films like Drive and most recently Ex Machina, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Lupita Nyoung'o from the film 12 Years a Slave. She's a cameo award-winning actress. Annie Serkis, who's been best known for playing Gollum in the Lord of the Rings series, as well as appearing in films like King Kong Remake from 2005 and the 2011 CGI animated feature from director Steven Spielberg called The Adventures of Tintin, as well as Domhnal Gleeson, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, and Max von Sydow. It's written by Lawrence Kasdan, along with co-writer J.J. Abrams and Michael Arndt, and it's directed by J.J. Abrams. The movie begins set 30 years ago after the destruction of the reconstructed Death Star. Luke Skywalker, who's played by Mark Hamill, is the last Jedi of the planet, has suddenly disappeared, and the Galactic Empire, who has been fallen, had rise into the First Order, which is seeking to eliminate Luke as well as the rest of the Republic. The Resistance, backed by the Republic and led by Luke's sister, General Leia Organa, who's no longer the princess, who's played by Carrie Fisher, is opposed them while searching for Luke on their latest mission. So that's when they hired Resistance pilot Poe Dameron, who winds up meeting the village elder Lord Santokin. And by the way, Poe Dameron is played by Oscar Isaac, and Lord Santokin is played by Max von Sydow. They wind up on the planet Jakku in order to obtain the map to which where Luke is located. That is until the stormtroopers had arrived under the command of Kylo Ren, who's played by Adam Driver, who destroyed the entire village, killing Lord Santokin and captured Poe, while Poe's droid BB-8 escapes with the map and comes across a scavenger, a young woman named Rey, who's played by Daisy Ridley, who's at a junkyard settlement, just fixing some more junk along the way in the desert. Well, suddenly Ren had tortured Poe and learns that the BB-8 has a lot of plans in mind. But meanwhile, a stormtrooper named FN 2187 was unable to kill the First Order, winds up taking Poe hostage, and they wind up freeing him and escaping inside a stolen TIE fighter. Poe actually dubs FN 2187 as simply as we know it, Finn, who's played by John Boyega. They wind up crashing into Jakku, which Finn suddenly appears to be the only survivor of the desert, and he winds up going to a place where they were about to sell some droids, for lots of cash, just when he winds up encountering Rey and BB-8. But suddenly the First Order had tracked them down, and they wind up escaping by fleeing the planet in a stolen rundown ship, which turns out to be, as we know it, the Millennium Falcon, right there. Which was, of course, once owned by Han Solo and Chewbacca, who are played by Harrison Ford and Peter Mayhew. But just as the Falcon breaks down, it winds up being captured by a much larger ship that's run by Han Solo and Chewbacca, who now finally went back to their old ship and he explained that Luke had tried to rebuild the Jedi Order after a student had turned on to the dark side and destroyed everything that he had built. So now Luke had one exile, feeling very responsible for all the mess it causes. The gang had sought to settle debts with the solo attack, just as the fight of escape in the Falcon. Yeah, and this is where the Millennium Falcon suddenly has a beautiful close-up of the light speed that they use, just as the Millennium Falcon had. Okay, I'm trying to take this off and try to fly as fast as it can, like this. Zhoo! And I love the fact that this movie actually has a close-up of the light speed that they used when they went straight into it, because this is the first time I ever saw a CGI light speed that's going all the way straight. Kind of like a similar speed that they use in Star Trek, the reboot that J.J. Abrams has done. So I thought that was a good try for him. Anyway, once they escaped, the criminals had informed the First Order of Han's involvement, and they all went straight to the planet Takodana, where they wound up inside a cantina, almost similar to the ones they use in the original Star Wars, not to mention all the other cantinas in the Star Wars universe, where suddenly they meet Maz Kanata, who's played by Lupita Nyoung'o, who helped the BB-8 reach the Resistance, but Finn winds up fleeing on his own, just to reveal his dark secret. But then Rey has been drawn into the bolt and finds a lightsaber that turns out that it belongs to Luke Skywalker. And then suddenly she experiences a lot of visions that's actually occurring, which unfortunately she didn't want to be part of it, so she just winds up fleeing into the woods. That is until a huge attack of the First Order had arrived as they created a Star Killer base, which is now a new planet that's similar to the Death Star, to convert a super weapon capable of destroying every single star systems around, yet using all these airstrikes. And now they were ready to battle once they brought in the stormtroopers and Kylo Ren. And then after that, Kylo Ren had captured Rey, and they soon had the stormtroopers capturing Han Solo, Chewbacca, BB-8, and Finn, and that is until the Resistance X-Wing fighters had arrived, that's led by Poe. So now they're finally safe with Leia around, and we finally got to see, as we know it, C-3PO and R2-D2. Yeah, both played by Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker. So, of course, R2-D2 has been inactivated since the disappearance of Luke. Now it's up to Han Solo, as well as Chewbacca and Finn, to go after Kylo Ren and save Rey, and not to mention have the Resistance destroy the Star Killer base before it's too late. So that's what the film is all about, and I gotta say, I really did enjoy the film, just as I love all the Star Wars films I've seen, even though I'm not a big fan of the prequels, and I wasn't into the Clone Wars that much, but I think at least it had a decent story. But still, I think it was a lot better than I expected. However, it isn't as good as the original trilogy. And I can tell you why, because this movie had some major plot holes. And here's my problem. I think the story needs some work. It's been totally rushed ever since Disney had purchased the rights to Star Wars, and I feel like they really needed to fix what's going on, especially the character development between Rey, Finn, and hell, even Kylo Ren, because I just wish they had done so much better than we really expected it to be. Because most of the storylines that they put into the film look like it was borrowed from elements of the original Star Wars, which is The New Hope, of course, and The Empire Strikes Back. Because it seems to me like now we're going to get into this whole situation. Instead of what happened in the original trilogy, it's now going to be like in this movie. Well, anyway, I'm going to get to the characters. I thought Rey, who was played by Daisy Ridley, for the most part, I thought she was a pretty bland character. She's pretty much the female version of Luke Skywalker. Yeah, I know there are some people that said she's like Mary Sue, because pretty much she just goes around, working and fixing a lot of stuff that anybody couldn't do. I mean, she does it exactly like how Luke Skywalker did it. Yeah, then they also receive a message in that scene with the BB-8, which is similar to what R2-D2 was doing in the original. But before that, because surprisingly enough, she now uses the Force, which is similar to what Luke Skywalker is doing. It's interesting. So that's exactly how I felt. But as for Finn, I thought he was alright. I thought, to me, there are times when I think he could be a little annoying. But it seems to me like he's actually a pretty decent character, because technically speaking, he is a stormtrooper. He's been a stormtrooper all this time until he realized what was going on. So now he wants to escape from what's happening, so that way he won't be part of this. Because he knew how bad the First Order was. But he knew that he wanted to become a hero later on, and he did. I'm glad he went on to stop the entire army, including all the stormtroopers and everything. And the fact that he teamed up with Han Solo and Chewbacca, that was a good plus. However, I love the adorable BB-8, which is very similar to R2-D2, only this time it has a spear on the bottom and it moves around everywhere he goes. And yes, he does do all these noises. It's a very cute BB-8. It's the kind that you really want to have. And I love that. As for Kylo Ren, the villain of the film, I thought he started out as sort of a strong character, like sort of a badass character that's similar to Darth Vader. On the other hand, though, he doesn't hold a candle to him, because he's not that strong enough. Because by the time he took off his mask, I'm sorry I have to mention this, I kind of felt devastated, because they could have done a whole lot better than that, with his character, and that's just something I did not want to see. And it kind of ruined it for me after a while. Because that's what leads to the third act, which that's where it went downhill after that. I mean, the first two acts were okay, but then after that it just went downhill, and that's how I felt. Also, Supreme Leader Snork, who's played by Andy Serkis, who was actually ordered General Hux to use the Starkiller base, and already controlling Kylo Ren as well as the rest of the crew. I thought he was a great villain, even though he's sort of a giant version of Gollum, that sort of way. Yeah, I can even tell by the looks of him. He looks like Gollum. So that explains it. On the other hand, though, I'm glad to see the original cast back. Well, some of them, that is. I got to see Harrison Ford as Han Solo, as well as Leia, who's played by Carrie Fisher. It was great to see them again. And yes, to be fair, Mark Hamill's in the movie. I don't want to reveal what happened to him, so he did do a good job, at least. But it was also great to see C-3PO and R2-D2 again. I mean, it was just amazing to hear his voice again, of C-3PO, because this time around he now has a red arm instead of, gold. So it was just great to see him. I was really excited too to see the original characters, even though they're all being part of the new generation with younger cast and crew. Yeah, with the involvement of J.J. Abrams. But I'll tell you this though, the special effects that they used in the film, well, they're pretty much what it is. They just use CGI technology. I mean, it pretty much like the other movies that we've seen in the prequels. They just add more of that. They're just trying to improve all of the effects that they use in the original trilogy that they had, because of course the original trilogy had better special effects for its time though. I mean, nowadays it's becoming, as we speak. Either way, I thought it captured it okay. It's not as good as the as those effects they use in the originals, but it did have a great feel to it. I mean, it was great to see some of the original ships that we've seen. Such as the Millennium Falcon and all these other ships, even the X-Wing fighters. Never thought I would see those again, thank God, because they know they still use them for the Rogue Squadron. Despite of its flaws, I thought the movie looks amazing, and I love the lightsaber they use, even though it is a lot different from the lightsabers we see in the originals, but it definitely had something that they were going to go for. And I know they wanted to make this movie mostly for, as we speak, nostalgia. Because just like all the other films we had this year, everything's all built up by nostalgia. There's nothing wrong with that. Because I don't like the fact that nowadays they're just using nostalgia like it's a bad thing. That to me kind of pissed me off, because they feel like, oh, now we're going to be negative towards nostalgia. So why can't they say, oh, let's come up with something new this time around? Well, isn't that what they're doing? I don't know. It's just, today's generation just totally bugs me. Either way, I'm glad to see the original cast again, making its return. I'm glad it has the Star Wars touch, I mean, for the most part. The score that was done by John Williams, I mean, I'm glad they still used the original title sequence from all the Star Wars movies. Even the scroll that they use, it just looks exactly like what a Star Wars movie should be. But some of the scores that John Williams, it just seems like the score isn't nearly as memorable as they thought it would be. I mean, however, there are times where they did actually echo some of the themes that I'm more familiar with that's from the originals. Like, there was one theme that actually echoes the Darth Vader theme, and then another scene that actually echoes the Star Wars theme in the mix. So I thought, wow, that's something I never thought I would hear again. Even though most of the themes that they use in the film was just kind of forgettable. But I don't know. I mean, John Williams deserved better than that. But who knows what he's going to do next once we get the following sequels. Because I already heard that they're planning on making episode 8 and 9. Yeah, starting in 2017. So now we're finally going to get another follow-up from The Force Awakens. So this will probably be another trilogy in the series. So they'll be part of the generation as we know it. So either way, I had a good time watching the film. But at the same time, I did have some problems with the story. I kind of felt a bit disappointed at the way the film was going, but otherwise, it's definitely worth watching as a Star Wars film. So with that aside, I give Star Wars The Force Awakens 4 stars. I'm Joseph A. Sobora, and may the Force be with you. Bye.